process later this year.
Well, that's good to hear. Is it possible anymore to allow for a payment with change or cash? Or is
Right
that
now, we
just-
are completely a cashless agency.
No, I know, but that's just never going to change?
As of right now, we're leaning into that, but we're trying to figure out other ways to make it less burdensome, especially for individuals who have either lack of awareness or don't have an iPass or a pay-by license.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further questions, Senator Aquino moves the committee recommend the Senate consent to the appointment. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator McClure, Senator Plummer, Senator Cunningham, Senator Aquino, Senator Hunter, Madam Chair Murphy.
Aye, there being 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 voting present. The motion passes and your recommendation will be reported to the full Senate. Thank you for your continued service.
Thank you so much.
And next we will hear Mr. Christopher Britton, appointment message 104215. This is the Assistant Secretary to the Illinois Department of Innovation and Technology, or commonly known as DO-IT. Good morning, sir. Just a quick introduction to the committee.
Yes. Good morning, Chair Murphy and members of the committee. Thank you for your opportunity to be here today. My name is Christopher Britton, and I serve as the Acting Assistant Secretary for the Illinois Department of Innovation and Technology. I began my IT career over 27 years ago as a help desk analyst in Chicago, and I've always taken pride in providing excellent customer service and supporting people through technology. Since joining the state in 2018, I have served as the CIO at CMS and then the Group CIO for the public safety agencies. In these roles, I have led innovative initiatives such as the Move Over project for the state of Illinois, guided teams in replacing critical legacy systems, and built strong technical teams to support the daily operational needs of our state agencies. Throughout my career, I've focused on strengthening collaboration, improving service delivery, and supporting the vital missions of the agencies. As Acting Assistant Secretary, my priority is to ensure solution delivery and engagement across DO-IT's 36 client agencies. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, but good luck with Purdue.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Seeing no further questions, Senator Hunter moves the committee recommend the Senate consent to the appointment. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator McClure, Senator Plummer, Senator Cunningham, Senator Aquino, Senator Hunter, Madam Chair Murphy.
Aye, there being 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 voting present. The motion passes and your recommendation will be reported to the full Senate. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Best of luck. And sticking with DO-IT, we have now Mr. Patrick Nolan, appointment message 104216, and this is the Deputy Secretary for the Illinois Department of Innovation and Technology. Mr. Nolan, would you like to just give a quick introduction to the committee?
Morning, Chair Murphy and members of the committee. My name is Pat Nolan, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to seek your recommendation for my appointment to be DO-IT's Deputy Secretary. Before I came to DO-IT, I was the Chief of Staff at CMS and held several other roles there. I have graduate degrees in public policy and business administration, and I look forward to any questions. Thank you.
Questions? Senator Plummer?
Thank you for being here. I think I just have one quick question. I don't know if you were here earlier when Department of Public Health was here. We discussed their data breach. It's not uncommon when we're reviewing agencies and folks coming. There seems to, the last 4 or 5 years, been a tremendous amount of data breaches in the state of Illinois. I know DO-IT has made progress. I appreciate that. The two questions would be, one, over the years, and I believe it got into like 9 figures, other agencies owed DO-IT hundreds of millions of dollars, if I recall correctly, in the order of $200 million or so. Have those agencies successfully kind of caught up? And if not, which agencies still are behind and paying DO-IT their bills?
Yeah, we've seen significant progress, but it's not all the way there yet. In terms of which agencies are outstanding, I don't have the list in front of me and can certainly follow up, but it's largely proportionate to the size of the agency. So it's a cash flow basis problem generally, and we work with them very effectively to resolve those issues as they come up.
So you would say maybe I know a ton of progress has been made, so the work that that is not yet complete. That's not necessarily one or two bad actors. It's more everybody at a kind of pro rata amount based on services you're providing them.
Broadly speaking, that's the rate structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could have your team get with the committee, I think we'd be curious to see who still owes money and how much. And then, in like I said, in audits for quite a few of the agencies, cybersecurity issues have been found. Not trying to put anyone on the spot. Are you finding that those security breaches that has exposed the personal information of hundreds of thousands of Illinoisans, is it issues at the agency level that's consistently? Is it issues with Do It consistently? Or are they backdooring in through third-party vendors that maybe we've contracted with?
Unfortunately, cybersecurity is not my area of expertise, so I probably can't answer that question specifically. Cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility, from the end user to Do It, across the board, vendors, and we take all parties very seriously.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, Senator Cunningham moves the committee recommend the Senate consent to the appointment. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator McClure, Senator Plummer.
Yes.
Senator Cunningham, Senator Aquino, Senator Hunter, Madam Chair Murphy.
Aye, there being 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 voting present, the motion passes and the recommendation will be reported to the full Senate.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your service. Okay, now we are on to the Chief Procurement Officers. We start with Mr. William Grunlow, appointment message 104-234. This is Secretary of the Illinois Department of Transportation, is the appointee for the Chief Procurement Officer of the Illinois Department of Transportation. Morning, sir. This is a reappointment, so we appreciate all the service that you have done, and we'll just open it up for questions unless there's something.
Nope, go right ahead.
Seeing no questions, Senator Hunter moves the committee recommend the Senate consent to the appointment. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator McClure, Senator Plummer, Senator Cunningham, Senator Aquino, Senator Hunter, Madam Chair Murphy.
Aye. There being 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 voting present, the motion passes and your recommendation will be reported to the full Senate. Thank you for your continued service. And now we'll hear from Ms. Eileen Holzman-Daly, also the Chief Procurement Officer. This is for the Executive Ethics Commission. Appointment message 104-235. And you two are a reappointment to this division. We appreciate all your service, and we've had time to review all of your performances, so we'll open up for questions. Senator Plummer?
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. Several state agencies have reported issues to us, related to procurement. The Executive Ethics Commission stated that one of their top 5 programmatic priorities is to improve internal controls and operational procedures. What kind of progress are we making on those goals, and where are we at? Because it seems like no matter what we throw at procurement, it continues to be a problem.
I can't speak for the Executive Ethics Commission. I am appointed by the Executive Ethics Commission, but I am an independent chief officer. But I'm happy to answer the question that you seem to be asking about procurement. I'm not trying to dodge your question.
Sure.
We actually have done a lot of modernization in my portfolio. We have an e-procurement system, which you can use during COVID. It was great. During COVID, we could do approve of procurements actually through our phones. So that, and we had electronically, so people didn't have to come in and mail or drop off their procurements. So we did that. We have the Illinois Procurement Gateway, which is a vetting system, which allows vendors who normally would have to go through a vetting process for all of the documents that would be required. And we have a pre-qualification method through the IPG. So we are working through modernization in my portfolio so that we will have the ability to smooth things out and not have glitches as things go through the procurement system.
We've seen a lot of issues where I think in good faith as we've continued to try to improve the process, maybe we've started utilizing new programs, new software. We're bringing more folks into the fold, and maybe there's communication glitches between all these different systems. So we've seen some real issues there. So the more that the entire system, the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, that would be, I think, it would solve a lot of our problems, right? A question I have here: who crafted the piggyback program, and what problem was it intended to solve?
I was part of the process along with the legislators back in, I think it was 2017 or 2018, where there was a joint purchasing. So they have the Illinois Procurement Code and the Joint Purchasing Act. And the Joint Purchasing Act did not allow for what we call piggybacking. For those of you who don't know what piggybacking is, it is an ability to buy off a federal or a consortium contract for a specific need, but there would be a contract between the state and that particular vendor. The problem that was intended, before I talk about what the problem that was intended to solve, so we were hearing that it was taking too long to do procurements, and if it was competitively procured in a manner that is CPO by another state, by another group of states, or the federal government, they then could enter into a piggyback contract as long as they were willing to meet the terms and conditions of the state of Illinois. What we were trying to do in that situation was to move forward and speed procurement up, because efficiency in procurement is always something that we have a problem with. Well, issues with, I wouldn't say a problem, we're always talking about it. So, but Senator, one of the things that I want to emphasize to you is we do start with seeing if there's a master contract available, and then secondly, is there a competitive procurement that can be done before we move to not doing a piggyback or what we would call a participation contract. One of the things, though, that I think is really important to emphasize about a piggyback contract is when we have emergency contracts, they don't go out and do a competitive competition. At least if we can point them towards a piggyback contract, it's already competitively procured. So at least we have the opportunity, even if it wasn't done by the state of Illinois, we're not just going out and awarding a contract on an emergency basis. At least they can go to a piggyback contract that has been competitively procured in a manner that my office can approve.
What, sticking to that topic, what limitations have been imposed on the program, and what's the reason for those limitations?
So in piggyback contracts, as opposed to what we call participation contracts. So do you want me to stick to piggyback, or I can talk about participation as well?
Well, we can cover both, but it's specific to piggyback.
Piggyback. I generally limit it to 1 year.
Okay.
A 1 year program in order to see if a competitive procurement can be done in the state of Illinois under our rules and all the regulations that the General Assembly has put in place.
Any other limitations?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no. Any other material limitations that have been placed on the program, and the reasoning behind them?
Well, we make sure that we vet the organization that has done the procurement to make sure it has been done in a competitive manner. We make sure that they are looking at the business enterprise program to make sure that there is some participation there. And we also, I try to limit it to a 1 year because I'd rather have a competitive procurement done in the state of Illinois where there's more likely to have Illinois vendors so the money stays in the state.
What do you, I was moving on from piggyback contracts, I'll be respectful of everyone's time. I know there's more folks here. What do you think is a reasonable time it should take for an agency to publish an RFP?
To publish an RFP, because there's many steps to the procurement process.
Right.
So an agency is responsible for determining need. So they're the ones who decide what the supplies and services are to be done. They need to then put together, meet with their end users, put together a solicitation, put together a specifications that can be properly evaluated and used either in an IFB or an RFP. That process, I really can't tell you how long it should take an agency to do that. I would hope that agencies are planning in advance. They do have the ability through our bid buy system to see when contracts are expiring, so they should be planning in advance before a publication of an RFP.
I think, speeding that process along would solve, a lot of the issues that we're seeing. Any idea, do you have any data or any idea how long it takes an agency now to get an RFP published?
To get an RFP published, I can't really give you. It depends on the actual agency.
Okay.
Again, I'm emphasizing the agency has to do a lot of work before it hits my office, so I don't want to mislead the committee about what I'm talking about. We can certainly look and get back to you, Senator, on that, but it will differ between agencies, and it'll differ between what kinds of goods and services they are seeking to procure.
Do you have any advice for agencies on what they can do to make the process go smoother? And then also, what steps has your office taken to speed up that process and make it easier for the agencies?
So we have taken a lot of steps. One of the things that we do is we've built up the training because when there are people who have moved out of the agencies, out of the procurement spots, so they come in and they're new to procurement, we have a whole Illinois Procurement Training Academy through my office that has on-demand and instructor-led classes. So that includes how to write an RFP, how to navigate the bid-buy system, how to write specifications. So they can take those classes. They're available on demand and in person. We're happy to go lead those. We also have a program that's known as Training Tuesdays. So every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, we have a webinar, a WebEx available for anyone to come listen and learn about procurements. We have a whole training department that we are, it's 3 people, but that's a department for us, and they are available to go ahead and learn from us. So what we're trying to do is to give the agency personnel the resources to do the procurement because we serve as regulators.
Right. And I want to be sensitive to time here, so I think I just have 2 more questions.
Certainly.
I guess maybe a simple one is, how come your APOs don't handle the procurement for the agencies?
Okay, so I don't want to get enough but soup, but I think it'd be helpful just to be clear here.
Yeah.
The people who work for me are called state purchasing officers, and they are the people who are the regulators who are charged with overseeing that the procurement is done lawfully. The agency procurement officers are hired by the agencies and do not work for me.
So I guess the question that maybe we hear sometimes is, wouldn't it be, and maybe I'm looking at this in too simple of a way, but wouldn't it be more efficient for an agency to tell your office, here's what we need done, and then your folks do according to your rules and your processes and procedures and policies what you need to do, as opposed to what I'm being told from agencies is this endless back and forth to make sure all the boxes get checked. Like if we consolidated it there, it would save, I think, a lot of time and a lot of frustration.
I'm not going to suggest what the General Assembly should do, but there is this idea of the checks and balances, that there is the idea that we want someone independent who doesn't work for the governor's office, whoever that governor may be, that is has an obligation to have no political influence. So after SB 51, the idea was to split those roles to have a regulator. So, and then there's also the agency procurement officers are the people who sit in the office and work, are the subject matter experts. Yeah. My people sit with them so that they can have constant conversations.
Well, I appreciate your work and your office's work. I just know if we could make this process better, it's never going to be perfect, right? It's certainly constant improvement. But if we can make it better, it's going to probably resolve some frustration in the state. It's going to provide better services to the people of the state, and it's going to save the taxpayers a lot of money. So whatever we can do to work better with agencies, and whatever we can do to find the log jams and fix them, we appreciate it. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
Seeing no further questions, Senator Cunningham moves the committee recommend the Senate consent to the appointment. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator McClure? Senator Plummer? Senator Cunningham, Senator Aquino, Senator Hunter, Madam Chair Murphy.
Aye, there being 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 voting present, the motion passes and your recommendation will be reported to the full Senate.
Thank you.
Thank you for your continued service, and I think we all need to work on procurement issues. The GA does.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
and sticking with procurement, because the procurement officers are under the Executive Ethics Commission, but they have specialty areas. And this is Bridget McCatton, appointment message 104-236, who is the Chief Procurement Officer for Higher Ed. If you'd like to come up and just say a quick introduction, because you two are a reappointment, and we appreciate all the service that you have done. So we can just open it up for questions. Seeing no questions, Senator Hunter moves that the committee recommend the Senate consent to the appointment. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator McClure, Senator Plummer, Senator Cunningham, Senator Aquino, Senator Hunter, Madam Chair Murphy.
Aye. There being 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 voting present, the motion passes and the recommendation will be reported to the full Senate. Thank you for your
Thank you so
continued
much.
service
I
and best of
appreciate your
luck.
support.
And last in the order of procurement, we have the Chief Procurement Officer who does procurements for construction and construction-related services committed by law to the jurisdiction and responsibility of the Capitol. And that would be Mr. Kenneth Morris, appointment message 104-237. Good morning. You two are a reappointment, sir. Feels like you were just here, honestly. So we'll just open it up for questions. Senator McClure?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since Mr. Morris is my constituent, I just want to say I highly recommend him, and I think he's doing a fantastic job. I met with him recently, and there's a lot of exciting projects coming up, particularly in New Salem, and I'm excited to see what happens. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you. Okay, thank you, Senator. Seeing no further questions, Senator Aquino moves the committee recommend the Senate consent to the appointment. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator McClure, Senator Plummer, Senator Cunningham, Senator Aquino, Senator Hunter, Madam Chair Murphy.
Aye, there being 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 voting present. Motion passes and the recommendation will be reported to the full Senate. Thank you for your continued service. Now, with leave of the committee, we will now consider the non-salaried appointment, Mr. Rodney Halsmacher, for a member position on the State Board of Health, appointment message 104-213. Mr. Leave, Senator? Leave being granted, Senator Plummer moves the committee recommend the Senate consent to the appointment. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator McClure, Senator Plummer, Senator Cunningham, Senator Aquino, Senator Hunter, Madam Chair Murphy.
Aye, there being 6 ayes, 0 nays, 0 voting present, the motion passes and the recommendation will be reported to the full Senate. There being no further business to come before the Committee on Executive Appointments stands adjourned. Thank you. I'm sorry.
market. And the credit market is funded by those that have to buy the credits, which are fossil fuel emitters, fossil fuel refineries, and those that get credits are those that help reduce the CI score. We've had a lot of good input from everybody on how this market should work. So this is the key to it, is that there's got to be an incentive out there for people to want to do this. And so you might hear some testimony talking about the credit market, but that is the key mechanism as to how this all works. With that, I'll end, and I don't know if you want to answer any questions now, but I think we have a lot of panelists, so we could always hold those to the end as well.
We will have our first panel representing agriculture. Please come forward and identify those of you who plan on speaking. Again, for all the panelists, if you keep your remarks as short as possible, be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I am Mark Rainey. I'm the Associate Director of State Legislation at Illinois Farm Bureau. Thank you, Chair Stottleman and Minority Spokeswoman Bryant, for having us today. I'm here to testify in support of Senate Bill 41 as amended. And before we get into legislation, I just do want to note and thank Senator Kaler for his approach on this legislation. As he has mentioned, we've been discussing this for 3 years, and we've had countless stakeholder meetings. So we certainly appreciate his commitment to include agriculture in the solution on this piece of legislation. But when considering what a clean transportation standard could mean for Illinois agriculture, Illinois Farm Bureau envisions a standard that recognizes Illinois as the agricultural powerhouse that we are. A clean transportation standard should, 1, recognize conservation practices and the impact those practices have on carbon reductions. 2, incorporate farmers statewide and empowers them to claim ownership of those reductions directly, if they so choose. 3, fully realize and capitalize on the current and expanded use of biofuels that are sourced and produced domestically right here at home. And 4, have cost controls in place to protect consumers. We believe Senate Bill 41, as amended, addresses these principles. It lays out a framework that fully maximizes Illinois' advantages as a nation leader in agriculture, one that can be duplicated in our neighboring agricultural states in the Midwest. By gradually shifting Illinois liquid fuel to widely available, cheaper, and homegrown biofuels, while creating a first-of-its-kind competitive market where conservation practices have a place. So farmers no longer have to rely on inconsistent funding, oftentimes underfunding of conservation programs, as well as hope that the benefits of any change in policy in this space eventually trickle down to the farmer on the farm. So I'll close. Thank you, Leader Kaler, for your leadership, and thank you for the committee for the time, and we look forward to having more conversations. Thank you.
Chairman Stadelman, members of the committee, I'm Brad Stotler. I'm with the Illinois Corn Growers Association. I'm the Director of Government Affairs. And likewise with Mark, first and foremost, thank you to Senator Kaler. We've had many, many meetings and debates amongst stakeholders. This is a very complex topic, but Illinois Corn supports SB 41, Amendment 1, as written. Senator Kaler has gone to great lengths to incorporate agriculture and renewable fuel within this bill and not hinder it, which is much different from what we've seen in West Coast programs. And so he alluded to how this is unique, but that is one goal of ours as Illinois Corn Growers, is to make sure that this is a model for other states. Again, not like West Coast, but instead a model for the Midwest. So we could see this in places, if we get it right here in Illinois, in places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and other states as well. The bill sets rigorous goals, but they're obtainable. And that's very important when it comes to this credit generation idea. And so as this panel goes along, you may hear some discussion about gas prices and other things around that. But keep in mind that people pushing that point are trying to sow negativity and skepticism around this policy. When we think about that, I wanted to point out a couple big things in this bill that will help contain costs. First, there are specific mechanisms in the bill that limit the cost of carbon credits. There are not only caps to the carbon credits, but also mechanisms to adjust the program targets to mitigate any impact on fuel. Second, the bill creates an environment for credit generation so that many different technologies can participate, so compliance costs will be low, but environmental benefits high. And third and final, I wanted to mention how this bill encourages alternative technologies to fossil fuels. So from our industry's perspective, we know that through market pricing, higher blends of renewable fuel, whether it's E15 gasoline or higher biodiesel blends, saves consumers at the pump. So Illinois Corn believes that the right clean transportation policy should have the following things: only recognize domestically produced feedstocks for biofuels in the program, use fair life cycle emissions accounting models, include accounting for farming practices so that Illinois farmers can benefit, and be a template for other Midwestern states. We see SB 41 as doing just that, and thanks for the opportunity to speak today.
Good morning, Chairman, Minority Speaker, members of the committee. My name is Kevin KJ Johnson, and I serve as the Director of Government Relations for the Illinois Soybean Association. Thanks for the opportunity to testify today. Illinois soybean represents 43,000 soybean farmers here in the land of Lincoln. I want to thank Senator Kaler for bringing this legislation forward and for the continued leadership in advancing policies on decarbonizing our transportation sector. Illinois has been a long leader in biofuels, particularly biodiesel. Thank you for a large part of the sales tax exemption on biodiesel blends. The recent increase in those blend levels have been instrumental in strengthening demand for soybean oil here in the state of Illinois. Illinois' leadership is especially important given the challenges facing our industry. This past year has been extremely difficult for soybean farmers. In 2025, nationally, the United States used 40% less biodiesel than 2024. Despite those headwinds, Illinois bucked the national trend, thanks to our strong state policy on biodiesel, using 5% more, according to the Illinois Department of Revenue, in the past year. That growth has helped advance investment and providing critical value to farmers that other states do not have. As this legislation continues to be negotiated, we're hopeful it will include provisions that harmonize through federal standards. These standards prioritizes national American feedstocks and eliminate onerous indirect land use change policies. As the discussion continues, Illinois Soybean Association is looking forward to advancing national policy to expand biofuels in our state, such as state aviation fuels and renewable diesel. Thank you, Chairman and Committee, for the time today.
Discussion, questions for this panel? Just one question, anybody who's able to answer that or provide some insight. How will the credit integrity be ensured when integrating, these ag credits into the standard? How will that work?
Sure. So our members would have to enroll into the program voluntarily, and they would be subject to all of the same audit requirements as determined under the letter of the law and the rulemaking authority from the Environmental Protection Agency and Pollution Control Board. They'd have to turn over whatever paperwork is required and then be subject to random audit just like every other entity that would participate in this program.
To add on a little bit, this is about the practices that people could institute. So if you're doing no-till, cover cropping, these sorts of things that lower carbon emissions for the feedstock that ends up being made into renewable fuel, those things would be strictly, they'd need to be verified. And as Mark said, they would have to be registered in the program.
Is this similar to the process done on the West Coast programs, or how does this differ?
So no, this is one of the deviations from the West Coast. And the West Coast programs don't consider these practices at all in their models. In fact, biofuels and agriculture are mostly penalized on the West Coast. So this is part of the discussion as to why this bill could be a model for the Midwest, because it really takes a look at all the benefits in a unbiased manner that agriculture and biofuels can bring to this space. So this is one of the key components that is different from the West Coast.
Additional questions, spokesperson Bryant?
Not a question, but I like this piece of legislation because I've often argued that we give carbon credits when solar is put on good farmland. There are carbon credits that are given to solar companies, so forth, when we take crops out of production that naturally process CO2. So it's only fair that if a farmer plants something that naturally processes CO2, they would have the opportunity to get carbon credits. So I hope that this moves forward in a productive way shortly. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Couldn't agree more.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for your input. Appreciate it. Our next panel represents biofuels. No one else? Please identify yourself.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 41 and the development of a low-carbon fuel standard here in Illinois. We appreciate Senator Kaler's leadership on this issue and for sponsoring this legislation. My name is Jeff Earl. I'm with Clean Fuels Alliance America, formerly known as the National Biodiesel Board. We are the national trade association representing biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel. We support Illinois taking this important step toward a clean fuel future that is both economically and environmentally sustainable. Illinois is positioned to lead in this space with its strong agriculture and robust biofuel production that's currently in the state. It can design a clean fuel standard that reflects Midwest strengths. We are particularly encouraged by the bill's recognition of soybean production and state biofuel production and the inclusion of the ag crediting provisions. These elements ensure that farmers and fuel producers are not just participants, but fully integrate into the policy design so that its benefits are shared across the entire supply chain. We view an Illinois LCFS as a natural complement to the state's existing sales tax exemption for biodiesel and renewable diesel. This policy has already demonstrated Illinois' commitment to cleaner fuels. In addition, I'd like to highlight the support from our member GEVO, who see this policy as a critical opportunity to expand production of sustainable aviation fuel here in the Midwest. Allowing SAF to opt into the program as a credit generator is a proven approach that we've already seen in other LCFS markets. This structure has successfully increased SAF use at major airports without disrupting existing fuel markets. As Illinois considers implementation of this legislation, we encourage policymakers to either exclude indirect land use change penalty for soy-based biofuels, or at a minimum, adopt a regional approach that more accurately reflects the U.S. agriculture practices. Domestic soybean production continues to become more efficient, producing more beans on fewer acres. It's not associated with deforestation concerns that is seen in other parts of the world. Aligning ILUC treatment with these realities would ensure a more accurate and balanced assessment of crop-based biofuels. Finally, we are optimistic that Senate Bill 41 can serve as a foundation for broader Midwest clean fuel standard policies. By aligning these policies across the region, states can unlock greater emission reductions, strengthen rural economies, and provide consumers with more affordable, cleaner fuel options. Thank you for your time today.
Peter Kaler.
I think we scared off some of the testifiers. They have submitted written testimony on this.
Okay. Discussion. When it comes to a new program or concept, so everybody likes to talk about jobs and what it would bring. Has there been any type of guesstimate as far as any estimates of job creation numbers, whether it's regarding biofuels or related to the program that could possibly be created?
I haven't seen any current studies. I don't know, Brendan, if you guys have done anything, but we do see this opportunity to create a robust clean fuel market here as spurring innovation. And with innovation comes more economic development. So if we can create a Midwest clean fuel standard, our biofuel producers here currently in the Midwest can see a larger certainty in a market that which would lead to expansion of the current operations, which will obviously lead to hopefully more economic development improvements and job creation.
And I would say, yes, it does. I don't want to speak off the top of my head. We will bring back a report on that.
That'd be helpful.
Let me just add one clarification on why California has excluded agriculture. Agriculture doesn't, in California, is the fruits and vegetables that we eat. It's not feedstock for biofuels. Most of California has converted now, I believe I'm correct in this, to biodiesel or to, renewable diesel. But most of that stock comes from palm oil from Southeast Asia. So we were trying to prevent that from happening in Illinois. We want to make this more a U.S.-based feedstock.
Currently in California, the diesel pool in that state is made up of about 70% biomass-based diesel because of their low carbon fuel standard. And while we don't agree with some of the most recent rulemaking they did where they have capped crop-based biofuels, that is something we don't think an Illinois LCFS should consider. We have, obviously, in this Midwest, a lot of great soybean production, and if we would move to that, adopting similar restrictions as California, it would only hurt in-state producers, in-state biofuel producers.
Additional questions, discussion? All right, appreciate your input. Our next panel will represent the refinery and fuel retail industry. Please come forward and identify yourself.
Hey, good morning, committee. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thanks to Senator Kaler and his staff for all the time they put in. My name is Jim Watson. I'm the executive director of the API Illinois, which is the Illinois Petroleum Institute. We represent over 600 companies involved in all aspects of oil and natural gas. We have members on both sides of this issue, which is why you haven't seen me in some of these meetings. However, I should say that should a bill pass, we do have an interest in making sure that it is workable. And unfortunately, there are underlying concerns with this recent version that give us pause. First, a subtle yet significant note. There's a difference between modifying the state's fuel mix and reducing the carbon intensity of those fuels. Our members make fuel. In fact, the investments our members have made in this state and in the Midwest have made Illinois the 4th largest refining state in the nation. When you factor in operations across bordering states, the Midwest is a strategic fuel center, a footprint that is important and should be nurtured as our refineries and our infrastructure become vital to our state and our nation when hurricanes hit. Geographically, we are shielded from those storms. And it is an asset to the Midwest for us. We make fuel and we are good at it. We want to make sure that any legislation protects the advantages that we have here. Establishing a program which generates significant credits from production outside of our state does not help. So what are the key elements of a successful program? Some are likely to be welcomed across all stakeholders, and some may be a little more controversial. A phased-in implementation timeline is key to give people the opportunity to catch up. Clear off-ramps to avoid supply disruption and negative consumer impacts are a must. A credit system that is directly tied to transportation is important. And when I say directly tied to transportation, I mean that if we are talking about low-carbon fuel. Giving credits for practices that do not impact the fuel structure is going to get expensive. It makes no sense to establish a system that generates credits that are not linked directly to transportation. Utilizing inclusive life cycle assessment models that rewards efforts to decarbonize feedstocks is important. And a successful program must be technologically neutral. Co-processing should be included. Again, we have these strategic assets that produce fuel. We're the 4th largest refining state in the nation. Use them. Allow them to participate in this program. And finally, feedstock neutrality is key. The focus should be on emission reduction opportunities across the supply chain. Again, we have these assets. Limiting their participation limits the success of this program. Again, we have members who have worked on this issue for the last 3 years. The reason I'm here is because the product that was produced most recently gave them pause. But I do know that they would be happy to continue the efforts to work moving forward. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Nate Harris, CEO of the Illinois Fuel and Retail Association. We're the statewide trade association representing fuel distributors and convenience store operators throughout the state. There are over 5,000 gas stations in Illinois, employing over 90,000 residents and collecting over $7.7 billion in various taxes for the state. Our members are among the nation's leaders in providing alternative fuels, whether it's E15, biodiesel, or EV charging stations. I want to thank Senator Kaler for including us in stakeholder meetings that have occurred over the last year. In my limited time before you, I want to focus on a few main issues that still exist with the current version. First, what is this program going to do to the cost at the pump? This is the main question asked of me every time this subject gets brought up. Will this be a 5-cent increase or $1.50 per gallon? We don't know. Much of the program is still left up to administrative rulemaking, and we therefore do not have a reliable cost estimate for what this will do to gas and diesel prices. As we are all aware, the war with Iran has had major impact on the global oil market, raising prices in Illinois by $1 per gallon for gas and $1.30 per gallon for diesel. Uncertainty in what a clean transportation standard would do to prices is a major concern and top of mind for consumers right now. Second, one of the main aspects of a successful carbon program would include tech neutrality. Our industry is fuel agnostic. We will sell any form of transportation energy that our customers want to buy. When low carbon fuels are more economical than a petroleum alternative at the pump, consumers tend to purchase the lowest carbon, lowest cost alternative. The current draft of the program provides preferential treatment for sustainable aviation fuel relative to renewable over-the-road fuels and have comparable or more favorable emissions consequences. Allowing SAF producers to opt in without petroleum jet fuel producers generating deficits will disrupt and raise retail gasoline and diesel prices in the state. Although this helps certain SAF producers in the aviation sector, there is no economic or environmental rationale for this asymmetrical treatment of opt-in fuel credits. Additionally, over-the-road emissions are used here on our streets while jet planes are gone in 5 minutes. Finally, I want to mention that the EV charging credits should be reserved for publicly available charging stations. Allowing the utilities to aggregate home charging diverts an investment incentive away from publicly available locations and does not help consumers overcome EV charging range anxiety issues. Again, I want to thank Leader for listening to our concerns and working to help bring stakeholders to the table. We intend to continue our involvement in these negotiations, always available for questions. Thank you.
Nate, you mentioned the cost of the pump. That's yet to be determined. Can you just elaborate as far as what kinds of rules and what the process that determines that type of impact, what people pay for gas? Are you able to elaborate on that at all?
Not really. There's just so much of the program that is still left up to administrative rulemaking. I can get you, after the committee, our list. I think I actually gave it to you yesterday, the notes that I gave to the senator about the program, about all the different things that are still left up to rulemaking. It's very substantial.
Additional discussion? All right, appreciate your time. Next panel, EV and charging and representing automakers as well. Please come forward. Good morning. Please identify yourself.
Good morning, Chair, Minority Representative, members of the committee. My name is Tom Van Heeke. I'm Senior Policy Advisor at Rivian Automotive. Rivian is a U.S. company focused on the design, development, manufacture, and distribution of electric vehicles. We're proud to build our vehicles just up the road in Normal, Illinois, where we also build the chargers that comprise our growing public fast charging network. I want to start this morning, like others have, just by thanking Senator Kaler for his vision and initiative with this bill. SB 41 has kicked off a great conversation, as you can tell from the testimony so far this morning. Implementing a clean transportation standard, or a CTS, in Illinois can help the state achieve important goals, including the growth of the EV industry in the state. We support efforts to establish a CTS in Illinois and applaud the intent of this bill. CTS would marshal private capital for accelerated investment in the provision and use of a portfolio of clean fuels, including electricity. This means that Illinois could enjoy the benefits of a surge of investment in clean transportation fuel production and use, including associated job creation and growth, without requiring substantial new budget commitments. For the EV industry in particular, the potential benefits of a CTS are many. A CTS harnesses market forces, creating powerful economic incentives for the use of a portfolio of clean fuels, including the electricity that powers our vehicles. The use of electricity as a transportation fuel can be particularly beneficial because charging providers can create significant monetary value under a CTS. That's a powerful pull factor, encouraging further investment by the private sector in building out the charging networks that EV drivers use every day across the state. Done right, the policy could also support additional investment in EV production, retail consumer purchases of EVs, and fleet switching by both light and medium heavy-duty fleet operators, which would complement the state's ambitions to grow the EV market in Illinois. Just to give you an example of what that might look like, typically under programs like this, and what we'd expect is that if you're a fleet operator that buys a Rivian van, for example, and you charge that van at your depot using a charger that you've purchased, every time you charge, you're creating value under the CTS. You're creating credits that then you can sell. You can imagine how that improves the value proposition of that van when we sell it to a fleet customer, and how that helps us sell the vehicles that we're building in normal. So you can sort of maybe see the chain there of cause and effect and why this is so valuable for our industry. Put simply, implementing a smart and thoughtful CTS is perhaps the single most impactful policy action the state could take today to support Rivian as we strive to grow our business here alongside peers in the EV industry. So I'll just leave you with a few thoughts here to augment the bill to see the greatest benefits of this policy for EVs. First, we would recommend reconsidering language that would allow charging networks to earn credits based on the capacity of their charging network on a time-limited basis. That would help speed deployment of public fast chargers in the state in the near term. We'd also recommend clarifying language in the bill that we welcome to govern who may qualify for what are called advance credits, which could accelerate near-term investments in chargers as well as fleet electrification. That's a great addition to the bill. We just think we need to see a better definition around it in the bill language to help us understand who could benefit from that program. 3, provide an opportunity for EV manufacturers to share in credit generation to incentivize the additional production, sale, and use of EVs like those made by Rivian in Illinois. Ultimately, manufacturers like us and our customers play a crucial role in the use of electricity as a transportation fuel. And if we align the incentives right in this program, you're going to see the industry respond to that and surge investment in that sector. Finally, we think the bill could provide strategic direction for how utilities may invest any credit revenue they might receive from this program. Specifically, we recommend that the legislation direct utilities to invest 2/3 of revenues they receive into the state's existing EV rebate program, and the remaining third allocated to projects and goals determined by the agency and the board in consultation with affected communities and environmental justice organizations to address specific transportation electrification needs. This would ensure that credits seed further self-reinforcing investments that create a flywheel, essentially electricity use, creating credits that incentivizes further electricity use and credit generation. So to wrap up, Rivian looks forward to the committee's deliberations on this important bill and to continue partnership with all stakeholders in supporting the state's goals. Once again, we thank Senator Kaler for bringing us together for this important conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and members of the committee for the opportunity to speak with you all today. My name is Will Dreyer, and I'm a policy manager with the Electrification Coalition, a nonprofit that promotes electrification of the U.S. transportation sector in order to protect our economic and national security, as well as American jobs. We work closely with our business council, 35 companies across the EV supply chain on advancing our priorities. I'm testifying today to share our strong support for an Illinois clean transportation standard and to share some of our suggestions to ensure that a well-designed program will yield the greatest benefits for diversifying the fuel used in Illinois' transportation sector and expanding deployment of electric vehicles across the state. A clean transportation standard in Illinois would successfully support an increasingly diversified transportation fuels market, rewarding innovative and low-carbon intensive fuels like electricity to power our vehicles. Critically, a well-designed clean transportation standard would also address one of Illinois' most persistent challenges: how to sustain our electrification goals while maintaining the state's other budgetary priorities. A clean transportation standard would provide reliable and long-term funding for electric vehicle programs and incentives rather than relying on the state budget. I've submitted written testimony that goes in depth on our suggestions, and a lot of that overlaps with Rivian. So just to add one more, we'd like to see and ensure adequate representation of the electric vehicle industry on the Clean Transportation Standard Advisory Council. We're very optimistic that an Illinois Clean Transportation Standard can successfully address the state's transportation over-reliance on a single source by promoting increased fuel diversity from domestically produced electrons, cementing Illinois as a national leader in transportation electrification, and providing a blueprint for other states to follow. I'd like to thank Senator Kaler and his staff for their work on gathering stakeholder input and developing an ambitious and achievable program for the state of Illinois. Happy to answer questions.
Appreciate it. Question for Rivian, Tom. Have you shared specific language with the committee or the sponsors, and you've done that already? Or you plan on doing that again in the future?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Chair. Yeah, we've submitted written testimony and have had productive discussions with the senator and his team. And again, we thank you for all of that over the last 2-3 years now that we've been having these conversations. And we're happy to continue engaging in that discussion. And we certainly have some suggested language that we've provided and continue to provide on improvements.
Additional questions? Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Final panel represents NGOs in trucking. Please come forward. And those who are speaking, please identify yourself.
Thank you, Chair Stottleman, Spokesperson Bryant, Vice Chair Hunter, and members of the committee. My name is Tariq Shahzad, and I'm the Government Relations Associate for the Nature Conservancy in Illinois. TNC is a national and global nonprofit organization whose mission is to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends. In Illinois, we are supported by more than 35,000 members and have worked for over 6 decades to protect a wide variety of treasured natural areas throughout the state for both people and nature. As the largest land trust in Illinois, TNC is honored to provide testimony in response to Senate Bill 41, the Clean Transportation Standard Act. Given the current iteration of the legislation, TNC in Illinois, our stance is neutral. Our recommendations that follow address the need for stronger climate and conservation benefit assurances to fully realize alignment with the Climate Equitable Jobs Act and our worsening biodiversity crisis. On pages 8 to 9, subsection B, we support the provision which creates a Clean Transportation Standard Advisory Council and dedicates specific positions to environmental advocacy and justice persons. To ensure inclusive and equitable council that aligns with our state's electrification goals, we urge the inclusion of a representative from the electric vehicle sector. We are also heartened by page 31, section 35, which commits the reinvestment of 50% of resulting revenue from traded credits by participating utilities and backstop aggregators to EJ communities. On page 7, the baseline year of 2019 was chosen as the guidepost for determining transportation fuel greenhouse gas reductions and setting the benchmark carbon intensity, CI, by which future fuel types will be measured. TNC and environmental partners supported amending the previous goal of a 25% carbon intensity reduction over 10 years to a 40% reduction. Today, the legislation remains at 25%. We strongly prefer an increased target that would better align this program with the goals of the Climate Equitable Jobs Act and the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act. On page 14, lines 14 through 21, we are grateful for the inclusion of the Conservation and Sustainable Agriculture principles. We recommend that the rulemaking phase prioritizes clarifying the implementation of subsections 9 and 10. Particularly, we hope that the established programmatic structure will codify incentives for voluntary environmental integrity and sustainable agricultural practices. On page 20, line 22, we support the proposed Clean Transportation Standard Agriculture Committee's inclusion of 2 seats for representatives from organizations centered on promoting conservation, agriculture, and environmental interests. Specifically, climate-smart agricultural practices are a powerful tool to guarantee sufficient priority is given to the stewardship of Illinois' working lands. We hope that agriculture, conservation, and environmental communities will be able to provide future guidance on best practices in the implementation phase. We request clarity on the proposed committee's role in this process. TNC welcomes future dialogue to ensure the codification of environmental integrity scores, on-farm crediting, and accounting standard operating procedures. Lastly, on page 30, line 8, we support utilizing GREET, the Greenhouse Gases Regulated Emissions and Energy Using Technologies model, as the LCA, the life cycle assessment. However, we oppose the utilization of the most recent GREET model, which removes indirect land use change, ILUC, from its analysis. We strongly recommend both ILUC and LUC considerations, or codified screening and benchmark requirements for fuel types to reduce deforestation and land use conversion when feasible. We originally supported the 40B SAF GREET 2024 model. Finally, we suggest that the final bill language gives the state additional authority to strengthen and adapt the tool as necessary. TNC in Illinois is honored to provide opportunity for testimony, and we look forward to continuing our engagement with Senator Kaler and the team on this significant piece of legislation. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Stottleman and Minority Spokesperson Bryant and members of the committee. My name is Danny Robles. I am the Senior Director of Legislative Relations with the Illinois Environmental Council. And we want to thank Senator Kaler and the team at Great Plains Institute for their efforts to bring such a diverse group of stakeholders to identify a pathway forward to reduce carbon emissions in our state's on-road transportation sector. SB 41 states that its aim is to promote innovation in production and use of non-petroleum fuels that reduce vehicle-related and fuel-related air pollution that endangers public health, welfare, and disproportionately impacts disadvantaged communities. These are core values that are fundamental and are aligned with IEC's mission. The Illinois Environmental Council has been around for over 50 years, safeguarding Illinois' air, water, animals, and the natural resources we all depend on. And IEC carries this mission with over 130 affiliate organizations that develop our policies and positions through collaborative and intentional approach. Working across different issue areas, including agriculture, energy, conservation, transportation, SB 41 offered us a unique opportunity to deliberate across our affiliate network. And in coordination with our partners, IEC remains neutral to the current bill language. And I would like to outline a few of the benefits and concerns surrounding the Clean Transportation Standards. To begin, the goals with the Clean Transportation Standards to reduce carbon emissions from the transportation sector are utmost importance. A report written in 2023 by the U.S. Energy Information Administration found that Illinois' transportation sector accounted for 33% of the state's carbon emissions. It is the sector that continues to rise in its contribution to greenhouse gases, and it has been documented that these greenhouse gases include pollutants that contribute to the shift of global temperatures and are harmful for the long-term health of our residents. And it is why the legislature needs to continue looking for every solution to reduce these emissions. We are encouraged that the Clean Transportation Standards set those goals and help reduce carbon intensity in fuel sold in Illinois. However, like my partner said, the environmental community believes that with proper investments in transportation electrification, public transit, and safe street design, we can achieve greater reductions in on-road transportation carbon intensity. And we should strive to achieve 100% reduction by 2050 to ensure we meet the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change goal of keeping global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. We've done this in other sectors, including the energy sector with the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, and we believe we can align similar targets with the Clean Transportation Standard, and we remain firm in our view that 40% reduction in the first 10 years of the program is achievable through these investments. I won't repeat some of the points offered by our electrification advocates and TARG here, but just to say that we are aligned with the points that they mentioned. Ultimately, this is a policy that's difficult to get 100% right, as most policies brought before the Assembly are. But we are encouraged by the progress and thoughtfulness that the sponsor has shown on this bill. There are great provisions that help the state remain a leader in agriculture and transportation innovation, focus on bringing benefits to farmers and environmental justice communities, and set our state to meet our climate goals. We are eager to continue working through these rules to ensure we prioritize incentives that will lead to better long-term outcomes for Illinois' health, our economy, and overall well-being on our environment. Thank you.
Spokesperson Bryant.
Thanks. Thank you, and thank you both for your testimony. I just want to make a couple comments because you talked about deforestation it's Tariq, right? Is that okay? Okay. I want to be very careful as we move forward because our policies so far in this state have created deforestation. So where we have massive solar fields, farmers are now deforesting to be able to plant where they once had good farmland. And at the same time, if we're talking about conserving our natural resources, we've also created an environment now where wildlife is shoved into smaller spaces because what used to be their natural habitat is no longer available. So I want to be careful as we move forward too, but there has to become a balance at some point in what we are doing going forward when we're saying one thing and we're actually creating policy that does exactly the opposite. So I would just, as we move forward on a lot of these conversations, continue to say that our speech and our actions have to match, and so far our policies do not. So thank you.
Oh, it's just a comment? Okay. Just curious, is Ryan Bankerd representing UPS online by chance?
I am.
Okay, I'm glad I asked. Go ahead and please identify yourself.
Thank you. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to share UPS's perspective on the Clean Transportation Standard. My name is Ryan Bankerd, and I'm the Global Director of Sustainability for UPS. Before anything else, I want you to know that I'm an environmentalist first. Fortunate enough to be in a role where my job is to help decarbonize one of the largest delivery fleets in the world. The strategy that my team and I built is a strategy that UPS uses today to decarbonize our ground network. With that being said, I want to say I appreciate the opportunity to zoom in and avoid any unnecessary travel. From this experience in my position, I've learned something very simple. The fastest, most durable emissions reductions come from policies that scale what already works in the real world. And if there's one thing I can say with confidence, it is that clean fuel standards work because they accelerate proven solutions. Let me make this real with an example right here in Illinois. At our single facility in Hotchkins, Illinois, we operate 294 heavy-duty tractors fueled with renewable natural gas. Those vehicles travel more than 121,000 miles a day, totaling 36 million miles a year, using low-carbon fuel made from captured landfill methane, RNG. Today, that one operation alone displaces 5.1 million gallons of diesel annually, avoiding approximately 25,000 metric tons of carbon in the surrounding community. Importantly, this is happening without a clean fuel standard in place. What it demonstrates is the real, measurable impact that alternative fuels can deliver today, and the opportunity that Illinois has if policies are designed to accelerate adoption of biofuels in the transportation sector, rather than slow it down or dilute the market signal. This is also why California's experience matters. Research from UC Riverside's Center for Environmental Research and Technology, or CSERT, shows that California's low carbon fuel standard has delivered emissions benefits equivalent to electrifying roughly 35% of the heavy-duty vehicles in use today. Let me put this plainly. LCFS-driven renewable fuels are delivering EV-scale decarbonization now using the vehicles and infrastructure already on the road, all while electric vehicles continue to scale for the long term. CSERT also highlights something else that matters to communities. When low-carbon biofuels are paired with next-generation ultra-clean engines, including the 0.02 gram NOx natural gas engines that we use in Hotchkins, Illinois, you get immediate reductions in both greenhouse gases and local air pollutants. The combination delivers near-term climate and air quality benefits, especially in heavy-duty freight, where electrification is taking time. So what does this mean for Illinois? It means Illinois has a chance to design a policy that delivers real emissions reductions quickly, especially in the heavy-duty sector, while preserving reliability for commerce, essential deliveries. But program design matters. Clean fuel standards are most effective when credits remain clearly tied to transportation fuel production and use. That linkage preserves the market signal that drives investment, infrastructure, and the real fuel switching on the road, which drives those carbon reductions. That's why this discussion around climate smart agriculture, or CSA credits, is important. UPS supports climate smart agriculture, and we love our farmers. The question is not whether those practices are valuable. We know they're valuable. It is how to keep clean transportation standards focused on transportation decarbonization within a CFS. CSA credits should be limited to those directly connected to the transportation fuel feedstocks and fuel production, so that the program continues to drive real fuel adoption rather than dilute its effectiveness. In closing, I come to you not just as a corporate representative, but as someone who's spent years trying to turn climate ambition into operational reality. And fortunately, I'm in a position to do that. Decarbonizing a fleet the size of UPS requires solutions that work today at scale and communities you represent. Illinois can design a clean transportation standard that accelerates proven low carbon fuels, delivers measurable emissions and air quality benefits, and creates a durable market signal for continued innovation. If designed with focus, this policy can help Illinois lead on transportation decarbonization in a way that is practical, effective, and lasting. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I look forward to any questions.
Any questions for Ryan? Thank you very much, Ryan. I just want to double check to make sure there's nobody else online that we may have missed from any of the panelists. I don't believe so. Thank you. I want to thank all our panelists, one for providing your insight and your input, and I was very impressed with all your ability to stay concise to the point and as brief as possible. So it helped streamline the discussion. So thank you for taking the time and being brief. Would you like to make a closing statement, Leader Keeler?
Just that I'm extremely grateful to all the people that testified and who have been involved in this process. I don't know that we're going to satisfy everybody 100%, but we're going to get as close as we can. And you heard a lot of the issues outlined. We have those issues cataloged at this point. We will come back with an amendment that will hopefully get us a lot closer on this. But thank you for the committee's patience on this.
Well, Leader, I certainly appreciate your hard work and all the stakeholders. It's been a long time, long journey. I guess, would you be able to summarize some of the major obstacles you think you need to overcome over the next weeks and months and try to bring this together?
One was just mentioned by Ryan from the UPS, and that is a discussion. Agriculture would really like to see credits be able to be generated for any kind of carbon intensity reductions activity that they do. There's a lot of folks that want to see that only in terms of what is going in, what feedstock is actually going into transportation. That's an issue we've got to wrestle with. I think it's important if this whole CTS strategy is going to work, agriculture has to be fully engaged in this. So we will work through that issue. I'm not an expert in any of this. I know the political process, but I don't know all the things that these folks know. But we'll have that discussion, and we'll get to a satisfactory conclusion on it.
Well, it sounds like the stakeholders have been actively engaged and contributing, so hopefully that process will continue moving forward.
I meet with folks every week on this, so we're engaged.
All right, thank you for your work. Any further discussion, comment? If not, there being no further business to come before the Energy Committee, the committee stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.